This is Leonard Evans addressing what science can say with clarity about the ever-controversial subject of global climate change. Science does provide clear answers to 4 key questions. The first of these is the Earth's temperature changing. Here the answer is very simple, and the answer is yes. At any time, the Earth's temperature is always different than it is at any other time. We can be certain that in 10 or 20 years' time, the Earth's temperature will be different from what it is today. We can infer that purely by clearly thinking about it. The second question is much more difficult to answer. That is the Earth getting hotter or colder? First, you've got to think in terms of some time in the future, such as 20 years, and ask, is the Earth going to be hotter or colder in 20 years than it is today? To address this, you first would need data on the historical estimates of the Earth's temperature. To some extent we have such information, but it's not near as complete or accurate as one would wish for such purposes. Even if we had a perfect record of the Earth's prior temperature, this still does not tell us what it is going to be in the future, because the Earth's temperature is greatly affected by many unpredictable events, such as volcanoes. The evidence on the table does indeed suggest it is getting hotter, but in science we don't answer such questions with a simple hotter or colder answer. We answer them with a probability. The evidence available suggests that the probability the Earth is getting hotter is about 70%. If we accept this, that means that the probability the Earth is getting cooler is 30%. One passionate devotee of the global warming interpretation claims many times on television it is 90% likely that the Earth is getting warmer. Well, for a paper to be published in a scientific publication, the normal standard is 95%. So an unimportant paper on an unimportant subject would be rejected by an unimportant journal if it only claimed 90% confidence. And the idea that we should turn the world's economies upside down on a lesser standard seems to be a little bit far-fetched. If we accept that the Earth's temperature is getting warmer, the next big question is the main cause human? We know with very great confidence that almost all human activities affect the Earth's temperature. For example, my decision to wear a white hat rather than a black hat affects the Earth's temperature, because the white hat will reflect more of the sun's radiation back into space than the black hat, which will have an effect on the Earth's temperature, but of course an effect no consequences whatsoever because it's so small. So all human activity is likely to affect the Earth's temperature. But does the evidence suggest that any collection of human activities are the main cause of changes in the Earth's temperature? And I think the answer is very clearly no. There is at most a rather modest effect from human activity compared to the other factors that have changed the Earth's temperature from the beginning of recorded time. The Earth's temperature has gone through many phases. We all know about the first ice age and the second ice age and the way we come out of those. These have nothing to do with human activities, and these natural changes are still occurring. So human activities do affect the Earth's temperature beyond any doubt, but it is not clear at all to what extent any collection of human activities are affecting the Earth's temperature in either direction. There was a book published in 1976 called The Cooling, and it was much praised by many politicians. The book stated the cooling has already killed hundreds of thousands of people. If it continues and no strong measures are taken to deal with it, the cooling will cause world famine, world chaos, and probably world war. Now, in 1976, this found a lot of adherents, and this information was in many well-read journals and supported by many of the very same people who are currently calling for massive action to counter the absolute opposite effect to the one they were clamoring for action against in 1976. The final question is, when climate change does occur, are the losses greater than the gains? If the Earth is getting warmer, it is self-evident that northern countries like Sweden and Canada will enjoy an enormous increase in potential agricultural production. The gain in these modern mechanized countries will vastly outweigh the losses from reduced production in equatorial countries. Of course, lakefront property will reduce in value, which will affect some slither of the population, but changes in real estate values occur all over the world in many places, usually not so much affecting the richest part of the population. So if your seafront property starts declining in value, this would be just part of normal economic activity. As it becomes less, you sell it for less and you move to higher ground, and the world effortlessly survives such changes as it does every day. In summary, I think science can illuminate four of the key questions that arise when we talk about global climate change. By doing so, I think the world might be able to apply its energies and resources in more productive ways and be better able to identify some of the real problems that beset our world. They are much more in the nature of human activities rather than these essentially natural events that are undoubtedly somewhat influenced by human activity, but only to a modest extent, whereas war, terrorism, and so forth are 100% the result of human activity.